All right, that should work better, hopefully. There was a setting that was set to stereo, and I'm not using a mic that I used to use before. I got an upgrade, but that one is oh, perfect. Yes. Hell yeah. Technology. Yeah. Perfect. Cool. So, right. Yeah. Let's get back to this jazz. And by the way, I'll be doing more of those streams, much like what Ash has started with his live stream through Learn Squared. I'll be doing much more of those. If I miss any of your questions, don't be upset. I'm gonna try to keep answering those. Just keep coming in and asking questions, and I'll try to address as many as I can. Um, I'll be doing more of those streams, and I'm gonna focus on this particular painting. I want to get it finished. I want to do like a really sick art out of it, but it's just gonna be a lot of handwork. This is sort of like a collage of photos, textures, and some 3D here. I'm overpainting it to make it look like it's one of those awesome poster drawings or something. And I want to get it done in a very very same way, in the very same detail as the painting that was on the banner for this stream. So that's my goal. And this might actually is pretty big size, as you can see. Well, maybe I'll make a print out of it. We'll see if there's gonna be enough interest for it, obviously. Um, yeah. All right. Back to questions. So if I'm going to release any new classes for Learn Squared, yes, I will. I'm working on it. One thing I don't want to do is be repetitive, and so next class is taking a little more time. I've asked you guys what would you like to me to do, and I got some really interesting answers. So I'm trying to compose new classes, and every single new class that I'm doing, and pretty much not only me, but Ash and everyone else who's involved in making classes through Learn Squared. We don't want to rush anything. It's almost like we want to just crawl and crawl and crawl and make sure you guys are getting the best possible results. So in the meantime, instead of just waiting and waiting, we decided to start doing those Twitch streams, just to get you some free stuff going on in the meantime. We get those streams, we talk. Ash is doing his thing. I'll be painting and answering questions and maybe getting some guests. I'll also be doing art cafes in the meantime as well. I also plan to have Twitch stream sessions where we'll just talk about new hardware or software. There's one I want to specifically do about Octane and Cinema 4D because there's few interesting new aspects to it, and one of them is something that I've discovered by just opening up Octane 3, the new release in Cinema 4D, and realizing that I don't ever need to go back to Modo to do replicator stuff because I can do it right in the Octane, and it works awesome. So I'll probably make a separate stream about that, and that's actually to a question that I was seeing here. It was about Modo or Cinema 4D or both. Um, Best 3D package in terms of working with other people. I'm learning Modo at the moment, but I'm worried that I'm not learning Maya will make working with others more difficult. That was Team Denby. You should not care. Just have an approach. I don't give a fuck. And use software that is do it by OBJs in most cases or FBX. And those, by the way, work pretty well with Modo. FBX not so well. I think at least it didn't in 601 or 701 was the last version I had. But it might work pretty well already. I'm pretty sure, they have been improving their software quite a lot during that time, and um, like every software is getting better and better. Like for me, for instance, one of the best softwares that I've been using and had the most fun and been most productive with over the last couple of months is Fusion 360. It's probably the software, the 3D software of my choice right now, even though it's not really for composing scenes, and I cannot use it for everything, but purely for hard surface modeling, Fusion 360 pretty much replaced any other software need that I ever had. I'm rarely coming back to 3ds Max. I only use 3ds Max or sometimes Cinema 4D just to, compose something together and render it out in Octane or V-Ray. Those are the two renderers I'm using the most. I also started playing with Corona because it's super easy to use, and I also found that that's a great software, but I'm mostly using Octane because of the GPU render. It's pretty darn fast, and especially the new version is really promising. It's still lacking some of the features that I wish there were, but it's the majority of my work is coming from it, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, Fusion 360 is the jam, and I use it a lot, and I'm gonna be talking about it a little more, of course. What else? All right, let's see what other questions we have there. Would you include sketches and rough designs in the portfolio you send to a studio? And what else do studios like to see? Ooh, it depends on what kind of studios you're gonna be sending those sketches to. If From what I've noticed in video games specifically, quite a lot of studios these days are doing art tests, and the main reason for those is they want to make sure that whoever they are hiring is going to be a person that can do the style that they are after. For instance, if you want to join Naughty Dog, you will be asked to do a test, and they will do a test specifically to check if your artwork is going to be useful for what kind of work Naughty Dog is currently doing. And that's one of the reasons why they're doing tests. They will also check how serious you are about working with them, because if you are not doing a art test and you're asked to do it and you say, well, you've seen my portfolio, fuck off, well, then they can say, well, all right, we'll find someone else. Like, they don't really care. But if you're a true fan of The Last of Us or Uncharted, and you really want to become a part of the team and be there to create games like Uncharted 4 or The Last of Us, you better damn care. And it's not gonna hurt you to put an effort to make it happen, to make the test. Most of you guys will do it, I'm 100% sure. It might be some kind of reservation for artists that are already have quite a lot of experience. And to be honest, I personally had the same kind of thinking. Like, why would I do a test? You already see my artwork. You already know what you're hiring me for. And that's true, but sometimes that's not enough, especially in something as important as, video games, where every mechanism, everything you do can make a snowball effect and ruin quite a lot of time for quite a lot of people. It's a little different in films. Because in films, for instance, if you do concepts, you're never going to be asked to test for films. If they are contacting you to do work for them in any kind of film, that means you're going to do a job for that film. That's as simple as that. Nobody will tell you, hey, can you do art test to work on that film? Nobody cares. Like, they already know what you can prepare and do, and they'll base they will give you work specifically based on that. In video games, however, it's making video games is way more complex in terms of how many layers are in the game's creation, at least from artist's point of view. In film, there's not that many layers. You're a concept artist. You have production designer who's above you, and then director, and that's it. That's pretty much the whole structure. You don't care about anything else. And you might maybe care about set designers and work with them specifically on creating sets, or decorating sets. However, it's not going to be ever as complex as in video games where you have to care about, blocking or like, if the gameplay works with the specifics of what you painted, or what you're painting is like if it's even feasible to make it happen in the game engine. What are the textures? How many textures you can put there? How many objects can be there? If this is enough or not? There's just so many things that can go wrong in just technical level that it's really important to have a person with the right attitude that is joining the company, especially if you're going overseas and let's say you're in Europe and you want to work for Naughty Dog, and before they hire you, be damn sure they'll test you, because just relocation alone is in thousands of dollars, if not more. So that's a huge investment. They are paying more than a month or two of a salary just to move you from a country to where the studio is. So that's basically when it comes to that. All right, let's see what else we have. There's a lot of questions that I'm skipping here. Sorry for that, but someone asked if I'm using Cinema 4D or Modo. I've stopped using Modo. I'm using Fusion for modeling and Cinema 4D or 3ds Max to get everything else together, depending on what exactly works best. Do you think polybrush and VR polybrush is the future? I think VR is the future, or might be a future. I also think that AR might be a future. In any case, anything that is related to 3D is going to be quite more and more important or more useful. I'm actually curious how it's all gonna work out, because there is one trend that is happening right now. There is this sort of nostalgia for traditional art and for painted art, where when you do that kind of work, it's really appreciated by others, and rightfully so. So, and as you have Patreon, you have YouTube, you have all those platforms that allow artists to sort of show how they work and what they do and live out of it. And that's great. And I think that's also an avenue for a lot of artists. So I would not dismiss completely traditional media or any other media that was here before, or like if photo bashing is gonna go away or not. Maybe not. Maybe it's gonna get to a point where it's gonna be so easy to use photography and manipulate photography that it might replace some tools, or maybe there's gonna be other tools that are more useful than 3D. Who knows? Technology and software and hardware are moving so fast, it's really hard to predict. But definitely there is a trend towards 3D, and there is a growing trend towards VR. That's for sure. Let's see what else. All right. Having a hard time finishing painting. I can't decide if I can call it finished and make it look unified like a one piece. Also, how to reach a cinematic mood and lighting with help of references. Any quick advice will be helpful. So my quick advice is, if you want to have a cinematic look, it usually means that you have to use cinematic like landscape view, 2.4 by 1 in terms of aspect ratio of your image, or very sort of like a action oriented photo pose or something like that. You can make something that is square in terms of the image, very cinematic too. Um, what I would suggest you doing is film studies. So basically, take your favorite film and study it, and then just try to paint frames out of it. Like, pause the film on the frame that you really like and try to paint it. And what it does, it will train your eye towards thinking about composition that is used in those films. And usually that is work of director of photography. Um, those two guys working together create what you see on the camera. And this is all they do. Director of photography will make sure shit looks fucking awesome, and the director makes sure that the whole show looks fucking awesome and it's directed properly. So when you look at, let's say, I don't know, my favorite, Kubrick, right? When you look at Kubrick films, or if you look at Coppola, they have a very specific style. There is a lot of going on the screen. Or even just like, hell yeah, like Tim, you mentioned Blade Runner. Look at Blade Runner and look at the aspect ratio and what kind of lenses are being used and how things are framed. And you will start to notice patterns. You will start to notice that some directors like to use wide lenses, while others like to use very long lenses. So, for instance, Coen brothers like to use wide lenses, and what it makes it look like is the camera has to be really close to the characters, and when the camera is really close to the characters, they start to look a little bit more comic, but you also become more intimate with the characters. So there is an intentional use of lenses that makes a different feel or different look. Whereas let's say if you would use long lens, you're gonna feel like disconnected or far away from the scene, almost like you're peeking from like a vantage point, and you're not there, or you're there but nobody else can see you. So that's like that's how it would work with lenses, basically. Heat is a great movie that uses long lenses. You almost feel like you're looking through the binoculars, like from far away. All right, what else? How do you think the industry would treat someone trying to master this later in life? But later what? Hold on. I think I missed the first part of the question. I'm not entirely sure what's in that question. So I'm gonna jump into the next one. How do you think the shift of the gaming industry towards virtual reality technology will affect concept art? Do you think it will be? Do you think it will affect concept art at all? You know what? I don't think so. I think. I mean, look at. There's quite a few games that already are ported or available in VR. And basically, when you work as a concept artist for games, you're already thinking how this stuff is going to look in 3D. So your 2D images are, helpful for 3D artists to build it. It's probably more important for 3D artists or maybe for software engineers. In games, everything is sort of kind of done in 3D anyways. It's not like you're actually painting a game. You're painting an image that then is being built into the game. Maybe one change or one thing that could be interesting and might shift some work is if you use 3D for concept art. If you're really freaking proficient in making low poly or art that is based, or models that are basically sub Ds that are clean and can be used for UV mapping and everything, that could be helpful. So you could design props and vehicles and actually build them as you're designing them. The tools are becoming so much easier that basically you can start doing that very soon. If for whatever reason, and I'm pretty sure it's not far away, or maybe it's already in there, where you can, if you could use, say, software like Fusion 360 and then export OBJs, that will give you very not so clean meshes. But if you would have a software that is basically retopologizing everything automatically to proper subdivisions and optimizing them, I could see that becoming like an avenue for concept artists. But that's really far away. Not to say that you should not do that, but it's really far. Even with how important and useful 3D is these days, it's still, in video games, you still can get away without knowing any 3D. In film, less so, unless you're really, really, really good in painting, then you don't need to know 3D. But if you're not, then knowing 3D will definitely help you to land more jobs. And most of the artists that I know in film already know how to use 3D in one or the other degrees. It's way more apparent in film than in games. Oh, and going back to that question that I didn't understand. So master art, let me see that question again. How do you think the industry would treat someone trying to master art this later in life? So you mean, is that by this question, you mean like if someone is older and trying to start learning and mastering art, and how would the industry feel about that? If I understand the question correctly, and if that's your intention, if not, sorry for misunderstanding it. But if that's your intention, it doesn't really matter how old you are. Obviously, the older you are, the harder it's getting to learn those things. But oh yeah, Aaron Beck. I mean, come on, guys, come on. What are you coming up with? Aaron Beck is a legend. So, but yeah, coming back to the previous question, yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you have a degree or not. What matters is what is in your portfolio and how it looks, how it presents itself, and is it something that is going to be useful for a very specific project that you're going to be hired for. Nothing else really matters in this industry. Nobody cares how you look, what's your gender, what's your race, how old are you. None of that matters. All that matters is what your art is and whether you're an asshole or not. If you're an asshole, then it's going to be harder. If you're not, then you should be fine. Assuming your art is good. So that would be the answer. All right. What else? Let's see. I'm gonna scroll up. There was some questions that I missed from the top. I saw someone ask you on Facebook, how many keyframes are you asked to do on movies like Civil War? All right, so that's an interesting question, and it depends on who are you working with and what is your role. So, for instance, on Civil War specifically, I was working with a production designer that I worked with before, Owen Patterson. And I used to work with Owen on Gods of Egypt. And he knew, when we were working together on Gods of Egypt, he got to know what kind of style of work I prefer, which means in which kind of work I'm faster and better compared to others. Every artist have their strengths and weaknesses. For me, doing keyframe is something that is pretty easy, and I can create something that looks pretty decent in a very short amount of time. Whereas designing something to look awesome and functional and whatnot takes me a little longer time, because I tend to think about a lot of things. And I'm not specifically, or I've never been specifically designer. I had no degree in the design, and I considered myself an illustrator for the longest amount of time. So with that being said, and working with Owen I think we worked for about a year on Gods of Egypt. He got to know what kind of style of work I do and what kind of work I do faster or better. So for him, it was pretty quick decision that, anything that is related to keyframes where I can start adding a lot of shit and make it look awesome would be something that he would be after. So on Captain America, we worked together with VizDev, the Marvel's VizDev visual development team. Marvel movies have this team that are basically on site. They work together on every single Marvel movie, and then on top of that, studios hire art department, and art departments come in and actually design the show and help and collaborate with VizDev to create the film. So in art department, it would be me and a few other illustrators, including Paul Osimo, Manuel Planck, and I believe there was a few more. And we would work together, or David Luong. There was a few more. I can't remember exactly, but there was a few more. So we would work together mostly on sets. And I would be one of the people that would create a lot of key art. For instance, my friend Paul, with whom I worked on several shows already, he's a great guy when it comes to props and elements, vehicles, that kind of stuff. So he will be the go-to guy for that, and he would do a lot of that kind of work. I would be doing a lot of keyframes. So for Captain America specifically, I was doing mostly keyframes, if in most cases. Even when I was designing something very specific, I would still dress it to make it look like keyframe. So it will be a lot. On the other hand, there are shows in which I do more designs versus keyframes, and one of them is I'm working on right now, Ghost in the Shell. I'm actually finishing work for that. And there's a few more shows that I've done in a very similar way, where I would design things more than I would keyframe things. Hope that answers your question. All right. And hi, Maciej. I'm from Colombia. Here is pretty difficult to find a job in movies and video games. The government and others just don't care about that too much. It's sad how all the awesome creative people don't get a chance to put themselves out there. How was for you when you started in the business? So to answer that question, I never look at I never think about the country if you're from or where you live. It doesn't really matter these days. Again, I'm gonna repeat myself. What matters is your portfolio. And now, of course, depending on country politics, it might be easier or harder to have access to hardware, software, possibilities to have seminars or travel. Every country is different. There are some restrictions in some. There are countries that it's much easier. Like US is pretty easy to travel around, and if you have money, you can travel everywhere. Your passport pretty much gives you visa-free access to majority of the world. So it's super easy to fly to conventions and shit like that. It's also easy to get access to a lot of training material. So in these days, what I would think of is, again, like if you want to be an artist and if you want to do it for the living, you have to live and breathe art. Like every single moment of your life has to be related to art. If you're not doing that, it's gonna be difficult, especially if you don't have rich parents and or you're not in the community that it's, or maybe not, your family isn't. I know artists that have artistic families. Or have been in communities that were art oriented, and it's much easier to become an artist when you're there because you're being fed with art from the very beginning, and you kind of grow to understand it even without focusing on it. If you're in a poor country and you don't have access to internet, or you have really shitty internet, and you have people that think about other things but art, and they don't care about you drawing pictures. They find it silly. I've been there personally. When I was trying to become an artist, and I've said it many times, I started as janitor. Um, Everyone was telling me don't be an artist because you're gonna be starving. That's like the starving artist stigma was everywhere. Like, don't waste your life on art because there's no money in it. Because people just don't know. They think what they see in the galleries and the gallery shows, and they see those students of those artistic schools that just don't teach you anything. Those average artistic schools that basically teach you how to be unemployed. Um, this is the perception that most of the countries or most of the people are getting, and that's really damaging. What you're gonna find is when you start to connect the community of artists, entertainment artists specifically, because that's where I have the most experience with, you'll notice that this community is really helpful. There's a lot of free stuff out there. There's a lot of artists that do stuff pro bono. They just care about community as the community itself. They want to see it growing. They want to see it prospering. And a lot of my friend artists do that. They just do it because they love doing that. So you just have to pay attention to those kind of people. Don't look at governments. Government don't really give a fuck about you, no matter where you live. um, you have to take care for yourself, and if that means that you have to work your ass off to get there, maybe that's the case. Sometimes that might not be enough. If specifically if you're unlucky and circumstances are just gonna throw rocks and like life will just basically make it harder than it's possible. That can happen too. I've seen artists that were trying hard, and you could argue they were not trying hard enough, but you don't know circumstances in which some people are. Maybe some people don't have means to pursue art anymore and stuff like that. You never know. But um, again, your portfolio is going to be what will find you jobs. You don't have to be anywhere specifically to work, like, or in this very specific country to work. You don't have to move to United States to work for films or work for big studios. You can be anywhere you want and work for those studios. I know artists from all around the world and they never move and they can still make it happen. So don't think that you need to be somewhere specifically. Think of what kind of work you need to do in order for your portfolio to shine. So that would be my advice here. Can we please have a course? Keyframe illustrations for movies, like creating storyboards and crafting VFX breakdown concepts and other stuff related. I'm gonna leave it without comment. You will learn soon. Question: thoughts on work on union films like Civil War? You needed to be in LA. Yes. So Civil War. Actually, funny story, because Captain America: Civil War is exactly the show that got me into union. This is the show I basically through which I was invited to be in the union. Getting in the union means you have to live in LA because it's called Local 800 Art Directors Guild, and if the show is made by any, here's a few very simple rules about union. So union is basically, the guild, art directors guild, is basically a union that basically protects your rights as an artist on the movies that you work on. So there's sets of specific rules that studios have to obey in order to hire people or even make shows. Now, some studios, or actually all studios, bypass those laws by making movies outside of the U.S. They don't have to care about the union anymore. So that's why you see Warner Brothers making films in UK or making films in Canada, or you see stuff being made in New Zealand, Australia, pretty much all over the world, China right now as well. So studios are making films everywhere. Um, but most of the films, or most of the directors, because of the legacy of how films in Hollywood was working, most directors, production designers, art directors, producers, most of them live in Los Angeles. Um, so that means unions are still in places, and most films start their life in Los Angeles, basically. Um, so if you want to work on films, and some of those films are still made in Los Angeles, some of them are made all across the country. They're just moved to different locations because of the tax incentives, mostly. Um, if you want to work on any of the major studio film, you have to be in union. They cannot hire you if they hire a writer for a film. That writer 100% is a union writer, and when there is a union person working on the film, that means this film is made through the union, which means every single worker on that film has to be through the union. The exception is visual effects. So you will notice that there is a lot of artists that are working on films, working for visual effects studios, and most noticeable are Moving Pictures Company, MPC, Weta, or Frame Store, and all of those studios around the world. And basically, they hire artists and hire them through the VFX, basically. But if you want to be in union, you have to be in LA. You have to be in LA County, I believe, or in California in general. I think, actually, no, I think you have to be in LA or LA County. Or actually, no, I don't know. You can actually check it on the union site. I might be wrong on that, so don't take me for granted. You have to definitely be in California though. And once you're in California, you can start working on the film that is non-union, and in any moment this film starts to become a union film. So let's say pre-production starts, and someone and it goes pretty well, and then they start hiring people from union, and such as writers or director. That means the show gets organized, and everyone who's not in union on that show either leave or have to become a union worker. And if you start the movie before that, if you start working on the movie before that happens, they will allow you to join the union with with a rule that you have to work on it for 30 days, which means like if you work 2 days before the show gets unionized, and then it gets organized, and then you have to work another 28 days, and after that you file an application, pay a shitload of money, and then you become a union worker, and you get on a roster, and then you can work on films. So that's basically how it works. Or if the film is already a union film and someone wants to hire you, they have a clause that they can, I think, hire 1 or 2 guys that are non-union, and they can be invited to union. So basically, this is how it works, and this is how you can get in the union. But you have to be in LA. You have to, know. First of all, you have to know directors or get to know directors, or your art has to be incredible enough to take notice, basically. So, or you can live outside of US, and most of the films, or a lot of films now are getting done in London or other cities. And in those cases, you just, you can relocate for the time of the movie, or if you're really good, they can just, freelance with you. So it just becomes non-issue these days. But most of the shows, especially with bigger directors, and most of the big shows will still kind of follow that pattern and still be, requiring to hire union workers in the first place. All right. I'm gonna take one more question, actually 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna end the stream. And then on the next one, we'll continue this painting. I haven't done much, but I've been enjoying talking with you guys. What questions do you ask yourself about illustration piece before you consider it finished? It's hard. It's a hard one. Like, it's really hard to consider something finished because sometimes I consider something finished just because I'm tired of it. But if I would want to impress someone with art or with my piece, or like if I would want to be if I would want to do something and then leave the impression that wow, this is an awesome painting, I would keep going until I'm like so tired of it, I don't want to do it anymore. And I would just go in and zoom in to like this and check every corner. Is there any seam happening in there or not? Is this looking good enough? You know, I would look at it this way and like scroll through the image. Like, what can I improve to make this image better? Like, those particles here look like shit. I'm gonna have to change them. So that's basically how I would go through the image. And obviously, that's my personal work. If there's a deadline for work, then obviously I would wait or work as long as I can until I reach the deadline and then send it over. It all depends. There's always, money versus time versus quality aspect. I always side on the side of quality, even if it means that I might be making a little less money. And that's because the quality work is your portfolio. And going back to what I said before, all that matters is what is in your portfolio. If your portfolio looks like shit, then it doesn't matter how much money you made on the last show or last project, because that last project might just be a big hole in your portfolio because you don't want to show any of it because it looks so bad. So, all right. Was there a piece specifically that got you recognized? Is that related to film or anything specifically? Or in the meantime, I'll answer. Do you think you will ever burn out? Woo, I might. Who knows? Like, I have and I know a lot of artists have the same thing. I get excited about a lot of things, and then I overkill, and then I get burned out, and then I don't want to do it anymore, and then after a while, I'll get back to it. I don't think I'll ever be burned out from art specifically. I might be burned out for a short period of time, but I usually come back. There is always like this cycle that happens, that something is great and then I'm tired of it, and then I come back to it again, and in the meantime I'm finding something else that is more interesting, you know. So I think in cycles. I don't think like I will ever be in a place where like, my god, art is so shitty, I cannot do art anymore. I don't think I'll be ever in that spot. I mean, this I've went through so much to be where I am right now, in order to be able to paint and make a living out of it, and have pretty decent life, just because of the work that I'm doing. I would never want to go back to other life. Like, I appreciate the hard work, and I appreciate the spoils of hard work, and I know that if there was something else that would make me more successful, but it would not require me to work as hard, I would maybe appreciate material goods for a while, but then I would get like, like, you would not have the same appreciation of a big success if you're not working really hard for it. That's what I think. I think, like, if you struggle to make something happen and then it happens, it feels different than if something comes really easy. Like, if there's some kind of success that came really easy, it feels great, but it fades away really quickly. It comes it comes quick and then it goes quick. When something takes a lot of time for you to get good at, it will stick for a while. So yeah, what kind of specifically, what if there was a specific piece that got me recognized for film? I don't remember if there was anything specific. I think, or maybe I think. So I back in 2011, I believe, My first movie work was for Robert Rodriguez, and that's still my favorite movie work, and that's still work that I cannot release, and I hope I'll be able to release it someday. And um, the piece or the work that I've done for or done before Robert contacted me was the gladiator standing in front of a dragon. Basically, that realistic look of the guy with a sword, two swords, and then the dragon looking at him. That was the one that I think was the recognized, and the Dark Riders, which was the two Nazguls from Lord of the Rings. Those were the two pieces that I think got me into first film work, but I don't think that alone got me into the industry itself, because the industry is so big. Um, Specifically, if there was anything specifically that got me into union film work, I can't tell. I think just the collective of what I've been doing, and the ripple effect of my art being reblogged and spreading. I think that contributed in general for recognition in film, and then getting calls. And once you get to work on two films, or like first film and the second film, there's just a snowball effect. If you're doing a great work, you will be getting calls, because in 3-4 shows that you work on, you'll know enough people to work in films, basically. All right. I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. I'm really sorry I missed some questions, and there was some obvious audio problems in the beginning. I hope you guys been enjoying the stream, because I plan to do more of those on behalf of Learn Squared. And I do plan to have more Learn Squared specific things going on. Let's just play it by the ear for now. I think Ash has something that is going on that is more structured. For me, I want to do those streams with things that are exciting to me, and also have this opportunity for you guys to come in and ask questions, and maybe have me to talk about few things and have fun. Probably one of the next streams I'll be talking about Octane. And some of the new things that Octane is having, that I'm having really fun times with, or maybe Fusion 360. Who know? I basically want to make those fun. I don't want to jump on a stream and like, I'm gonna paint something and maybe talk for a while and then just do it because I feel an obligation to do it. I rather do it because I want this to be fun, not only for me but for you guys as well. So. All right, dudes and dudesses. Yes, I'll be planning to get John Park. I want to get him as soon as possible. Maybe that's going to be the next one. Maybe the Art Cafe. We'll see. Obviously, we'll let you know. Andrew will definitely be spamming you guys about it, and I'll be using Facebook or any other avenues to promote it and make sure that you don't miss out on this. This stream, by the way, is being recorded, I believe, and it will be on YouTube. So yeah, so that's definitely gonna happen. And Art Cafe is not going away. Don't worry. I just had to have a little hiatus from it. It's related to just lack of time rather than anything else. I still want to do it because I enjoy talking with people and meeting new people and talking with friends. So it's going to be more of that. So very cool. Yeah, we'll keep going with this painting. I want to get it finished and I want to make it a print, possibly. We'll see. But I like this one. I started it a while back and it just has to be done, has to be finished. So thanks for coming, guys. I hope I was entertaining enough here. Still fighting my cold a little bit, but I'm sure the next one will be better, and I don't think we're gonna have any audio issues anymore. Because this went pretty smooth after we fixed that. So, and thanks for everyone coming in and asking questions. And if you didn't get your question answered, don't worry. Come in next time. I'm gonna try answer as much as I can. I'm obviously gonna miss some questions because there's just a lot of them and a lot going on the chat, and with just me alone here, it might be more difficult. But on the occasions with maybe John being on the chat or maybe Andrew, that's gonna happen sometimes. I'm sure more questions are gonna be answered. So you guys have a great weekend, and thanks for coming again on behalf of LearnSquared.com. Take care.